Hello, I'm Atajanova Surya Himbaina. I'm a senior lecturer for Virginia State University. In our previous video material, I focused on the reforming and organizing independent works of students studying in a credit model system. Today in my session, I will talk about the assessment criteria for independent works of students. So why assessment so important? Of course, while observing different kind of materials related to the projects, for example, preset curriculum reform project guided by British Council suggests different types of assessment for students organizing independent works. The first one is library research. So library research, case study, shared critical discussions, conducting a survey, journal entries, and classroom investigation can be accepted one of the important way and techniques of creating students' assessment for independent work. So while participating in this type of activities, learners mostly focus on the independent work where they can develop their independent skills of learning target language. So if we speak about the library research, so library research, what is it? It is a technique of collecting data by learning and understanding data which has close relation with the problems from books, series, notes, and documents. So while dealing with different kind of resources, students mostly focus on the data related to the tasks given by teacher, and they try to find out the problem. They try to understand the structure of the material. So they learn how to work with different type of literature. They learn how to input information from these different type of works. They focus on the novelty, actuality of the problem. They will be aware about the scientists' ideas and issues about the topic. So while dealing with this type of material, they face lots of new terms which were unknown for them, and individually, in order to understand the contextual meaning of the terms, they try to develop and expand their own vocabulary stock. So by dealing with this type of work, learners focus on some kind of scientific terms. Gradually, they develop their scientific vocabulary also. So very important thing in organizing this type of technique, library research methods. So teachers who want to use this type of independent work should be aware about the methods of using this type of technique. What are they? So subject searches. So different type of subjects may be, or the topics may be given to student. In order to in detail get information about this topic, students focus on which type of subject it relates to. By looking for recent books and articles, they Google different types of materials, articles, or citations mostly. They try to find out and they understand and study the main content related to their often independent work task. By working individually, they develop their understanding, personal experience, and of course, gradually, they will develop their interests to do a research work. They learn how to gain data, how to view the material, how to be interested in or find out more scholars' ideas related to the topic. Searching through published bibliographies, so it's very interesting way of making students working with different type of resources given in different internet sites. By using, they learn how to analyze and evaluate books and resources quality. They try to find out related to their own topic books by understanding the content of it, or being interested in getting acquainted with the content of the resources given in that site. So by working or finding out this type of resources related to their independent work, they develop their own understanding, own skill of investigating and exploring different kind of skills. So Next thing, important technique is called case study. What is case study? Case study is a research approach for all language learners, starting from middle level till advanced, where students used to generate an in-depth, multifaceted understanding of a complex issue in its real-life context. As its title says, case study, it's a way of making students work on different type of cases where they have to find the problem for study, investigate the content, and of course find the problem. What's the main problem in that case? Then after that, the most important responsibility is given to student to find different kind of solutions, maybe suggested solutions. So after analyzing and evaluating this problem and solutions, which coincides to each other. At the end of the case study, learners have to find the most and the best solution to the problem. So by doing this type of activity, teachers need to think about the objective of doing this type of technique. So what is the objective of a case study? The general purpose of a case study is to describe an individual situation. For example, it may be someone's life, activity, business, organization, or institution in detail. While studying these type of things, learners get more information, deeper information about something what I have mentioned now. So it may be a little bit problem-based situation, some kind of topics related to other social branches of our society. So they study the problem of it, and they of course, the problem, when it's chosen for the student or the difficulty level of the case study, should coincide, should match the learner's level. Sometimes teachers may choose some kind of difficult case study while organizing and giving tasks for the student may face lots of problems because the level is too high. That's why important thing is in creating this type of technique in order to make students work independently. We should, of course, get acquainted with the content of it, or the character of the tasks, or how long will it take the learner to deal with that material, or whether my students can do it. Lots of questions should appear in teacher's mind in order to make students work in this type of material. So case study makes the learner focus on the problem and, of course, individually try to find a solution or solutions. Suggested solutions may be compared to each other, and after that, one solution, the best one, should be chosen by the learner. After doing the case study, learners may be asked to write a reflection or review or report. So learners may present that reports to their teachers in turn. So another thing related to the case study, it's for teachers necessary to know about the assessment. While assessing a case study, it's necessary for teachers to be aware about the following criteria. Of course, it depends on the types of the case study, what is suggested, what is brought to class. So, what is the case study assessment? First, reading and examining the case thoroughly. Of course, it's given object to our student, but at the same time, it may serve as one element for teachers assessing the case study. So if we want to check students doing that step, in order to check whether student read or examines the case thoroughly. So while checking the reports or reflection written by the student after doing the case study, we can put tick to that point. Next, focusing on analysis. So learners at first should be given sample form of analyzing different types of case study or how to analyze the work itself. Teachers should give lots of examples and help learners how to develop that ability of analyzing the material. While teachers and students work together, they develop collaborative work. So teachers easily can or should assist their learners in order to help learners easily focus on the material in order to analyze the content of the given problem. The next one is finding possible solutions. So here also, sometimes some advanced learners can easily find a solution or give suggested solutions to the problem. But the weak learners may face difficulty. At that moment, teachers need to assist in that situation and help or prompt different types of solutions to the problem. So, but the preference should be given to students, where students themselves may be free to choose which solution is appropriate to this type of problem. So the next one is select the best solution. So this point, this step should be given to learner, because learner should feel responsibility and should develop, of course, their own understanding, relying on their own preference, own understanding, or that learner should develop decision-making skill in order to develop that step of the case study. So while selecting the best solution, of course, they can get advice from their teachers or from other people, or they compare and evaluate the process itself. While evaluating the problem, they face lots of nuances, lots of questions, but learners should know how to come to decision and find out the best solution. So the next thing, methods of assessment. We know that teachers face lots of types of assessment tools. There are so many because we develop lots of abilities, language abilities and skills in learner. That's why as teachers, perfect teachers, need to be aware about the different methods of assessing. So some scholars suggest us direct assessment. Some of them suggest us indirect assessment. So what is direct assessment and indirect assessment? So the written work is suggested here. So written work, really makes students focus on writing abilities in target language. But we have to focus on two types of qualification here. The first one is developing a writing skill as a skill, and second one is developing writing as productive skill. So which one do you think is preferable to focus here in order to use appropriate assessment? I think the second one. So what is a written work? What does it show? Written work demonstrates knowledge of important content. While giving students sample form of written format, we make students focus on the structure of it, because L1 written format greatly differs than L2 written format. In order to give them sample form and develop that understanding, what is the structure of written format in English language or in foreign languages? Learners have to experience different types of materials. So the written work here demonstrates knowledge of the content. After understanding of the sample formats given for students to practice, later they may be asked to write something. There are different types of written works. For example, review writing, summary writing, autobiography writing, story writing, or essay composition writing. So what does it give? It shows the analysis, application, and evaluation capabilities. While writing something in target language, learners at first have to develop their pre-writing skills. So they have to draft ideas, or plan their ideas, jot down some kind of statements in short in order fully to be able to highlight while writing a written work. Because written work is checked according to certain criteria. So it greatly differs than assessing speaking or other language abilities. So showing or doing some kind of analysis in order to deal with written format, learners have to be fully engaged into the content of the written material. So the plans, the parts, the structure of the written work will show the knowledge and the, of course, experience of that learner in this work. While checking students' written work, teachers need to announce, of course, before making students writing this type of work, teachers need to give sample criteria about the assessment. So learners have to be aware what is checked or how it is checked. how to do or how well to write in order to get more scores in written work. So if learners know about it, they try to do their best in explaining and expressing, or they mostly pay attention to the structure of it. They try to be very skillful in highlighting the introductory part. They try to logically connect the paragraphs to each other in target language written format. So while evaluating the written format, teachers try to be strict, of course, because why? Linguistic branch, of course, of evaluating the written format will put in front of teachers biggest responsibility, because we need to be really objective in order to put objective mark to our students' written format. That's why while evaluating the written work, teachers mostly pay attention to the form of it, to the gist of it, the structure, organization of it, accuracy, and fluency. So while doing it, lots of symbols should be used by teachers, and of course learners also should be aware what's a symbol, correction symbols of the written work. So it shows written work will help learners to expand their writing ability, expand and improve the writing production skills, and of course, totally briefly saying, it displays learners' writing skill in target language. So while writing, it depends on the types of the written format. There are type of written works where learners have to reflect their own understanding, conclusion, or some kind of reflections to the given work or to the given written task. For example, argumentative essay, descriptive essay, or other type of essays or written formats will make students focus on writing the reflections, their ideas, or personal experience related to the topic. Here they learn answer the questions like when, how, where, and why. So the most important technique making students develop their writing skill, it is asking students write about the reasons. So reasoning or this type of activities or techniques what makes students think about the reason. For example, what should be done in order to improve natural surrounding or environment. So here learners have to find a solution to the problem, write their own opinion, because here is given a problem for writing. So at the end mostly, or in each paragraph or at the end, learners try to give their own understandings, own ideas, or the solutions to this problem. So the next important thing is for independent work, which is very popular among teachers and learners, is called portfolio. Portfolio is a very good technique for teachers to use. It's a very purposeful collection of students' works, efforts, and achievements. What is portfolio? There appear a question, can I use it at school? Can I use it in a higher education system? Yes, of course, all language teachers are free to use, and school learners till this higher education system, like students in universities, can easily organize a portfolio style of assessment. What is portfolio itself? Portfolio, it's a collection of papers where students have to gather their own doings. Imagine at the end of a lesson, you every time give task for the next lesson. Or at the end of the semester, teachers try to give a bigger task for student, like project work, case study, review writing, reading log, writing logs. So this type of tasks may be collected by students themselves. In order to organize it, teachers should give a content of it, content for the material which should be collected in that portfolio. So portfolio, briefly saying, it's an assessment measuring the progress of a student, examines the instructional process. While teaching, in a teaching process, learners gather it till the certain period of time announced by the teacher. Teacher may say, by giving short period of time, maybe after a month, I will check your portfolio. After a month, teacher will gather all students' portfolio. Till this moment, students have to develop it, of course, improve it. After that, learners have to gather here all of their doings in order to perform and handle it to their teachers. The question, how portfolio is evaluated? Okay, portfolio contains in itself lots of different materials. Here may be context is different, where learner has worked on it with pencil in order to do some kind of tests. Here may be given written work where learners created something. Maybe here is given a test. Maybe here is given other type of tasks where maybe multiple choice, true, false tasks, maybe creations different, maybe album where learners were downloaded during the class task, participating in class tasks. So learners have to gather in, of course, file it in one portfolio. While evaluating the portfolio, teachers have to create, of course, their own criteria for checking and assessing it. Which type of technique to choose? Of course, it depends on the material collected in that portfolio. But the most important criteria is given here: completeness, correctness, appropriateness of products. So all of the content materials or the tasks should be completely fulfilled and, of course, finished and completed and given in that portfolio. So correctness, of course, plays a great role. Of course, individually, all portfolios should be checked by teachers. Teacher may take all of the portfolios, and at home they may sit and check, benchmarking all of the achievements of the student given here, and of course they try to pay attention to the content of it, to the design of it, to the correctness or the completedness of the material. So the material given and collected by the learner should coincide with the content of the portfolio fixed by teachers months ago. So the production, when learners they prepare, they may have, of course, different kind of mistakes. But that mistakes should be corrected individually, and of course a teacher has to put here, by putting and showing here, writing and recording different type of corrections on sheet of paper and put into the portfolio in order to make students get acquainted with their mistakes. Of course, some kind of solutions or the suggestions also should be suggested by language teachers. So the next thing is portfolio measures much wider period. Why? Because the content in order to complete that portfolio task, it takes a longer time for the learner. So learners should feel free to do the task. So that's why period should be given here. Time given here for doing the portfolio task may be longer than other types of work. Of course, content material also plays a great role here. Imagine in your content you have given 10 tasks. How do you think? What's the appropriate time should be given here for this portfolio? It depends on the situation. It depends on the level of difficulty of the content, material, course, or the form of learner. So the learners should feel free in order to do the activities step by step. Of course, don't forget they have got class tasks also. So class tasks should be logically connected to the portfolio tasks. So why to organize portfolio? Another question appears in your mind. Of course, not all activities may be done in one class. Class hours are limited. Imagine only one lesson may last 45 minutes at school, but in a higher education system, 1 hour and 20 minutes. How do you think? Is it enough time here to cover all of the material given to the topic? No, I don't think so. That's why teachers need to organize extra techniques, extra materials in order to download learners with more tasks where learners understand the material deeper. Portfolio style also the same thing. So it develops what? It develops here learners additional alternative skills which may be not developed in class. In class, we mostly pay attention to develop language abilities like reading, writing, listening, speaking. But in this type of work, they develop other types of individual independent skills like searching, investigating, exploring, or finding out, designing, analyzing, evaluating, coinciding. Other guessing, of course, here also may be added. So learners are free to work individually in any time, in a comfortable time for them. They work in order to highlight the tasks given in this portfolio. They need time because not all learners' understanding, not all learners' recognition is equal. That's why some weak learners, we shouldn't forget about the weak learners also. Weak learners should focus, they need time in order to focus and develop their concentration on this material. So while developing that activity or fulfilling that material, they approach to different resources. They may ask help from their parents even. They may ask help from their friends and teachers also. Of course they can do. They are free to do that. But while doing it anyway, they retain some kind of information in their mind. The most important thing is making students develop the ability of working alone, without you, without other people. But in order to make them be busy at home, not only a home assignment should be given. Don't think that home assignment is enough. No, if students deal with lots of material, other type of working, other techniques which were not impossible to use in class hours, it will be interesting for them to deal with this type of technique. They may develop other way of working, other learning styles. Imagine if you have given task for portfolio. In order to find out and complete the task of the portfolio, they need to approach to internet system or other resources. By doing this work, they develop other skills like IT skill also. So in turn, briefly saying, we can say that portfolio may develop one of the 21st century language skills, what is called collaborative working, critical thinking, develop creativity, other type of skills which every time learners or young generation needs to be developed personally. So important thing for teachers to know about the content of the portfolio. Okay, portfolio can be a physical collection of student work collected by students gradually, of course, including language materials such as written assignments, journal entries, completed tests, artwork, reports, different type of project plans, reports, scientific reports, academic accomplishment, including even awards. Award, you know, where a student participates in some kind of competition. Maybe some of the students participated in Olympiad. So after being awarded, that certification or this type of awardings may be also put or included into the portfolio. It shows what? It shows all the achievements of a student in this academic process. So not only here developing language ability or other things I mentioned here, all of the learning action is taken into account in order to assess portfolio. So this type of work is very interesting, but I can suggest the types of portfolio here. So there are different types of portfolio in teaching. So the first one is process portfolio, which documents the stages of learning and provides progressive record of student growth. In order to evaluate according to this type of portfolio, we should pay attention to the dynamic growth of the learner. Imagine you are working with young learners. In order to feel the development, improvement of improving or development of language abilities in that learner, we need to record, we need to pay attention and every time record the dynamic growth of the learner. So while using this type of portfolio, we try to pay attention of the improvement of the writing ability, improvement of the reading ability, improvement of thinking, creativity. It depends on what? It depends on the material collected and completed in that portfolio. This, if you want to use this type of portfolio, you should pay attention to the dynamic growth of the materials, dynamic growth of the mental skills and other language skills of the student. Next one is, second type is product portfolio, which demonstrates mastery of learning tasks or set of learning objectives and contrasting only the best work and training of the best work. While using this type of portfolio, teacher may pay attention to the quality of the portfolio. Here, what is shown? In this type of portfolio, a learner's best skills are shown here. So in order to use and evaluate it, we have to pay attention to the quality of it. If I'm not mistaken, if just explained you, the first type of portfolio mostly paid attention to the dynamic growth of it. But here, quality is the main focus. So the quality of the task, quality of the designed material. Imagine you have given your students this type of task, creating a brochure. At the beginning of the academic year, imagine that learner created brochure related to other topic. Maybe the topic was fruits. In the middle of the academic year, maybe that learner was downloaded with a task creating brochure related to the profession. So if you may compare the two types of brochure in order to understand that quality, which quality that learner achieved and developed. So if teachers want to use this type of portfolio, you should keep in mind that the quality of the material stands in the first place. So important thing for teachers to know about the other type of independent work, what we call poster and audio recording or oral presentations. Students mostly do that every time and every day. So learners also can do it every day if teacher wants to make them speak and develop their productive speech. So poster presentation, the best way for students to develop their own, express and develop their own spoken production, where they learn how to stand and build a speech. So, but before creating this type of poster or before presenting, performing ideas coming to class, learners need to develop or create a very beautiful presentation, poster presentation. So what is poster presentation? It's often used in order to assess individuals' group learning project, or individual or group learning project may be presented here by one person or by member of groups. So here we are, as we are talking about the independent work, we will focus on where individually learners will present their own doings. Poster can be given like one week before, announcing the topic, like prepare a poster on topic, for example, problems of different kind of professions in teaching, in doctor profession or others. Here learners will focus on the main content. They work step by step. Of course, they create a plan for it. In order to create a poster, they need information. They need fresh information in order to be informed well. Learners may be suggested some kind of sites by teachers, or the materials or some kind of resources suggested by teachers. So the learners will focus on the material content. They try to input very interesting material related to the material, related to the question given by the teacher. They try to find and write here the most important elements, passages, or the information which really easily and comfortably highlights the topic. So here, after this gaining information, important thing is creating a design. So the design of the material, of course, it's evaluated. That's why learners should be given information about the criteria for assessing the poster presentation. What is checked here? What is evaluated here? While doing poster, students should know for what they are checked: for design, for information, for writing, for colors, for what? Students have to be informed about that thing. While creating poster, they may work together. Of course, students, they work indifferently. They are thinking, their realization, their abilities are not equal. That's why if they work in group, they should know how to work on it and how to develop it and how to perform it on that day announced by teacher to do presentation. So while doing different kind of project works, very interesting for students to prepare a poster. They like this preparing poster because it develops collaborative work. But individually they can also do that. But in this case, our task difficulty should be a little bit lower than group poster presentation. So poster presentation, how it is assessed, or of which type of criteria should be taken into account. So design of the slides. As I'm doing now a presentation, someone can enter, watch that video material and find out, in order to assess my video presentation, they can also do the same thing. Pay attention to the design of the slides. You can do the same thing. While making students do poster presentation, you should have certain criteria for assessment. So first one is designing of the slides. So design of the slide, of course, while doing and creating it, learners learn how to prepare slides. You see here, not only preparing presentation or gaining different kind of information or collecting data related to the topic plays a great role. Here also is given another skill of working with computer skill, literacy, or working with IT, working with different kind of computer apps or software system. So learners develop that thing. So the second criteria for assessing poster presentation, it is focusing of the presentation itself. So task response, I would say in brief. So whether the main task was highlighted, whether learner focused the main content or the problem of the material of the presentation. So that thing is checked here. So the next criteria for assessing poster, clarity and coherence of the content. So whether the ideas presented here by the learner are logically linked to each other, whether the paragraph or the speech content coincide each other, whether that material has got introductory part, main part, or concluding part. So clarity and coherence can be put as a main criteria for assessing poster presentation. So the next criteria for poster presentation, it is lack of grammatical and spelling errors. I would say linguistic elements or linguistic components of assessing. So the project, while presenting poster, doing poster presentation, teacher may pay attention and record the grammatical and spelling errors of the speaker. Here only individual one person can do presentation, or group members can do it step by step, turn by turn by students, but students may be checked individually. Here teacher may record the name of the students and write here some kind of symbols in order to get information about whether that student's grammar is good, for bad or satisfactory. It's up to teacher how to put symbol for checking grammatical and spelling errors. So the next important thing is clarity of the presentation. So whether presentation presented, performed clear information, clear new information, whether any person watching that material can get easily information, new information, fresh information related to the topic. So here you see 5 elements of criteria for assessing poster presentation. If teachers focus on it, they can easily check and, of course, objectively put mark to students this type of independent work. Another type of work is called project work. I would suggest to teachers this type of work because it's accepted one form of 21st century skill, which will develop collaborative working. Or sometimes, but coming out of the form of it, techniques and technologies, teacher may use independent project work. So project work, what does it give? Or what is it itself? It is a planned, definitely formulated piece of study involving different type of language tasks or the problems taken up by the learner individually or group of people. Here, while focusing on this type of project work, they try to understand the content of the material, because the content should be presented for students 1 or 2 days before in order to prepare for students, in order to grouping them. Teachers need to keep in mind to announce all the requirements for put in front of doing the project work. Students, when they start to deal with the project work, need to be given full information how to work and what is asked to do. What is the main clear task of the material, or what should be achieved, what should be developed, what should be learned or investigated. So while selecting project work, teachers should keep in mind and be aware about different types of it. Not every time one type of project work should be suggested for students to work. Teachers should use different types of project techniques. Because they are different, so the types are also different. So coming out of the situation, level difficulty, learners' interests, or upcoming lesson topic, teacher may suggest learners different types of project works. While doing the project work, they develop which skills? They appear a question. So they will develop collaborative skill, investigating skill, problem-solving skill, analyzing, coming to conclusion, decision-making skill, comparing skill. There are different alternative skills in order to make what really makes students develop and expand in order to deal with project work. That's why some scholars suggest teachers this type of technique. What are the advantages? So all of the techniques, what we are talking today, have got its own advantages and disadvantages also. But today I'm not going to speak about the disadvantages. I will focus on the advantages. It will deeper engagement and interaction with learning content. Why? Because project task itself is very interesting. So the material or the tasks given for the project work should easily absorb to the content of the learner. So learners should be easily engaged into the topic, should easily understand the content of the material. So clear instruction, clear regulations and guidelines should be suggested by teachers. Another advantage, it shows encouragement of higher order thinking and problem-solving skill. Sometimes it's impossible for students to focus on the type or the content of the material given in class time. Because what? Class activities, they greatly differ than this type of activities what we are talking today. Because class activities, they are really short in time. Course, only 45 minutes shouldn't be spent on while for doing one activity. Here, teachers may organize different types of activities in order to make students practice all language abilities. That's why independent work will cover and will give opportunity for students to work on the topic deeper and deeper. Fully engaging students into the topic, sometimes it's very difficult in class time. That's why advantage, second says, encouragement of high order thinking and problem solving skill. So they try to develop their thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking skills should be improved with the help of this type of work. So the next advantage says, fostering of 21st century skills like collaboration and communication. You know, at the beginning of this advantage, I just explained that, saying it's the best way to develop 21st century skill. What is accepted here? Collaboration and communication, what really language learners need to develop. Because sometimes it's very difficult to make students interact with each other. We can organize lots of speaking activities. We can organize different kind of games, but sometimes learners may feel some kind of confusion, hesitation in order to get into contact with each other. But while participating in this type of activities, they forget about the psychological barrier. They try to be active. They fully engage it, even they forget about their teachers. They fully absorb it into the content of the material. So the next thing necessary to pay attention, the example of the types of the project work. What is the type of the project work? Reading, writing, project work. Here, only the task will focus on reading material. Imagine you can give for your students one literary passage, literary book, and after reading it, learner will write review for it. After reading material, learner can organize here in group a role play. So it's a best way to develop learners' art skill. Another type, information data project. So here, simple task is given, collecting information or data collection, briefly say. Learner will need this skill because they should know that not only teacher is the main and only resource of inputting information. Learners should know that there are other resources also to easily input information about the topic. So learners need here individual skills of searching, briefly saying, at the moment there exist another term, Googling different information related to the topic. Design projects. We know that when we work with young generation, with people, school learners, or even in higher education system, schools, students also should develop that designing skill, creating skill, what all language learners need to develop in order to improve their fantasy, in order to improve and expand their experience in creating something. So design projects mostly really beautiful and perfect technique to use at school, because teachers here mostly work with young generation who just started to develop their personal abilities, just started to recognize the world. That's why design project may include in itself this type of technique where learners may be given task for creating something. Create a poster, create a brochure, or create a family album. Here learners will find the photos of family members and create a beautiful album, and they will bring here and perform it for you. So it's also one type of simple project where young learners can deal with. Important, very interesting, among this type of projects, what I've explained now, problem solving and decision-making projects. Here, very appropriate for university students where they develop their problem-solving skills or decision-making skills. Here is given lots of problems, maybe suggested here by teacher, but the problems should really match to students' level, their age, interests, and of course abilities. It's impossible to give here the problem which is high of the students' or thinking skill. So, for example, problems of elderly or older people. Young learners cannot deal with it. Students also should be suggested here the problems related to their own age and interests. Argumentation project. Argumentation type of project will help learners to focus on one type of work, and they try to give argumentation. They study it, but adding their own opinion, they write here arguments. It's very interesting. Real-world projects. Real-world projects here, individually or in group, learners may participate in kind of projects where learners, together with other learners or with teacher also, they participate in bigger projects like parties, creating or producing different kind of role playings where in real world they participate. They participate, for example, trip to historical places and writing summary for it, or trip to official buildings in your city and write here article. This type of real world projects also can be suggested for our students. So the question appears here, how to assess project work? For process itself, for impact of it, outcome of it, of course, summative evaluation. So project work requires a learner to write process, the whole process. If the project work is really big in size, learner may write here a report for it, how they are developing it. So another one is impact or the influence of that content of the project work to students' understanding. So the outcome, what has appeared or what has been achieved by the student. So here, outcome, comparing to the expectations put in front of the project work by teacher, should be compared, and of course, summative evaluation should be graded here, put here. So in order to put summative evaluation, to do summative evaluation, teachers should get into account to the process, impact, outcome, design, information, freshness of the information, the whole process, whose contribution, which student did what. This type of questions should be answered. So, another important thing is working with educational literature. So while working with educational literature, students will focus on mostly the content of the material, by analyzing the literature itself. They study the characters given in that content. They try to focus on the plot of the story. They try to understand the setting theme. So by different type of tasks may be given for independent work, like describe the characters given here, sort out the positive and negative characters, try to understand the event, try to remember the event in this content, or find out the words describing that word, or find out the collocations. It depends on teacher which type of task to give for student for this type of work, linguistic tasks or some kind of lexical tasks. So another thing what can make students work, it's analyzing literary devices, analyzing the content, plot, genre, style, stylistic devices. So I can say here one thing, that young learners cannot do it. So the students studying university can deal with this type of activity when it is suggested by teachers. Evaluating reading literature or library research. How does it look like? So pre-reviewing, having students assess themselves. They can read each other's reflection written for some kind of books. They try to assess each other's paper. So another thing is portfolio collection of evidence. So again here, after making students deal with different kind of literary work, literary research activity, we can ask students to do portfolio technique to do. So another thing is rubrics. Rubric is a set of evaluation criteria based on learners' goals. Here, after getting acquainted with the content of the literary material, students may focus on the rubrics were fixed by the language teachers in order to be evaluated. They try to do their best. Written reports. After reading a good material, maybe literature, maybe interesting stories, maybe some kind of novels, learners may be asked to write a report, briefly saying report writing is one best type of developing productive skill. So the next type maybe here is that thing what is suggested by me, the techniques for the independent work. I think it's the best way of organizing independent work in class, no matter which type of educational institution you work. Dears, today just I wanted to focus on this type of independent activities where we can download our students with lots of tasks in order to help them develop their own understanding related to the literature, related to the materials, in order to develop 21st century skills. So important thing is to be objective and be aware about the types of it, and of course about the how to use the techniques of using this type of independent work. That is all. Thank you for your attention.